Well, hi everybody. This is DearMamaSal, and we are live on a Friday lunchtime. And what I wanted to do is to let you know that we just had to interrupt the broadcast, and I'm really sorry about that. Um, all right, so let's try this again. I'm hoping that you all had a great Easter. That's the first thing. And I certainly had a very traumatic one, and I'll talk to that in a second. I wanted to say that it's been a very difficult week for me, and that's part of the reason why I wanted to do this particular broadcast. But let me just let you know that we're going to start off by talking a little bit about what to expect under the be prepared. Have feelings of frustration, but be prepared for things that are going to change in terms of your budget. Hi there, Jody. Good to see you. For those of you who don't know, Jody is our admin. I was going to mention that we have in North America, we have Mother's Day coming up on the May 8th. So I thought I'd give everybody fair warning about that. I was talking before the stream cut out on me. I was talking about the fact that our viewer Lauren, who lives in Tasmania, has got problems with both her shoulders going on at the moment, and that would be a problem for any of us. All right, if you think about things that you want to lift and do whatever, but remember that Lauren is in a wheelchair. So she needs both her shoulders to be able to transfer herself from one place to another. So really, our thoughts and prayers go out to her and hope that she gets out of pain. The problem is she needs to rest those shoulders so they can get out of pain, but she can't rest because otherwise she's bedridden. So that's a very difficult one. I just want to let you know, as far as I know, there are no birthdays this week. So if you have one, please let me know. Excuse me. If you're a regular viewer, let me know so we can add it to our database. All right, now I wanted to give a heads up to everybody about spam. I got a spam this week that I thought I would share with you in case you get something similar. Let me just pull it up and read it to you. All right, so it came through on my cell phone, and that's significant. It came through on my cell phone and told me that Canada's tax return associated with my cell phone number, all right, told me to contact them. And luckily, I always think about all of you that warn me about these scams. And so I took a deep breath and I thought, what is the likelihood that the tax department would contact me on my cell phone? I reckon 0 to none, because I very much doubt that my cell phone number is logged with them. It would be my home number. So, I just decided to take a deep breath, and I did a bit of deep diving into the telephone number, but I still didn't get the answer I wanted. But what I did do is I actually reported it. And I would actually ask you all, I know it takes time and it's frustrating, but if you live in a country where they have those sort of laws, and Canada is one of those, there is a website where you can go and report people who are scamming you. And I did that immediately. And I actually put a note there saying, I'm not 100% sure this is a scam, but I very much doubt that the Canada tax people are contacting me on my cell phone. Therefore, please be aware that this is going on. All right, so I just wanted to say thoughts and prayers for Jody. She's got a really busy week this week with different visits to specialists and things and so forth. So just big love to you there, Jody, and hope everything continues to go well. I wanted to just say that I was feeling sad this week when I saw all that's going on in Ukraine and there was nothing I could do about it. But as usual, I wanted to remind you all that what is going on in Ukraine in the spring is vitally important to so many things in our lives. And so therefore, not only our lives, but lives around the world. Shalom there, Erit. Good to see you. So I want you to be prepared to see world hunger. Why? Because so many of the things that people grow, and fertilizer that people need so that things can grow come out of Ukraine. And obviously, this spring, they are not going to be doing an awful lot of manufacturing, and they're not going to be doing a lot of planting. And as we will see, the price of things is already starting to escalate exponentially. That's, starting to go like this. I had a look at a 10-pound bag of, oh no, it would be a 25-pound bag of flour. And that's gone up over $2 in the last couple of months. And I had Jody have a look at what it was in the States. And let me just read what Jody told me. She said a 10-pound bag of flour is, wow, a 10-pound bag is $16.80 now. All right. And that was pretty scary. I'm just having a look here to see, what did I pay for mine? Did I make a note of that? Probably not. Yes, I did. Okay, so I paid $14.69 for a 10 kilo with 2.2 pounds to a kilo. So for a 25-pound bag of flour, I only paid $14.69. So you see, Jody, buying big is a good thing. I was saying again that it is really important to have a look at, can you buy big? For example, I wanted to buy a certain toilet paper. And what I decided to do was to see whether they did a bulk stuff. And I managed to find a bulk of that toilet paper. And what did I see it for? Oh, I didn't get. Okay, I managed to get a box of 20, and it was a definite saving, and the same product, but what it is it's wrapped for commercial use. So think about that, right? Buy bulk. Another interesting thing that I saw was the difference between buying prunes in bulk as opposed to in a bag. And that was also an amazing difference. I probably halved the price of prunes just by buying them in bulk. And then there was one. Oh, yes, I know what I wanted to show you. I needed new peppercorns for my pepper mill. And Jody, I wonder if you can do a quick dive into what a bottle of pepper costs. In other words, if I was going to buy one of those spice bottles full of peppercorns, these are mixed peppercorns, I was horrified what the price was here because it was somewhere around, I believe, $20 or something. It was ridiculous price. But I managed to get right, and I would think this much would be in a bottle, all right? And I managed to get this much for a third of the price by buying bulk. So can you see? It's really, really important that you think about that. So having said that, I want to quickly talk. Oh, interesting. Jeannie saying we keep stocking up on coffee beans, toilet paper, and paper towels. Well done. Also think about, not using paper towels if you can. Rather buy a set of 12 face cloths in a color that will complement your kitchen and use those. I use old face cloths for a lot of stuff in my kitchen. But if you can get paper towels, that's great. But think about that. All right. So Irit's saying we buy flour in 1 kilogram. That's 2.2 pounds. All right. We're in Israel. We pay about 4 shekels a kilo. All right. So what would that be in American? All right. So good idea. All right. So, all right. Jody's saying that a bottle of peppercorns from Walmart was $5.23 American. All right. And that would be quite a bit more in Canadian, I fear. But just to let you know, think about buying in bulk. All right, so listen, this I found this out this week, and I thought I would share it with you because it's important. Uh, the co-president of a Belgian bakery and pastry confederation has warned that there could be a problem uh, for bakers, and it's about to get a lot worse. And I'm going to quote what he said. He said, "We must not forget that Ukraine is the granary of Europe, granary, in fact. And with what is happening at the moment, there is nothing coming out of the Ukraine. This means that tomorrow we can see the price of flour quadruple. Quadruple. All right? At 4 times it's more expensive than it is at the moment. Um, and therefore, you understand that's not price gouging. Flour itself is going to be very, very short supply. So have a look at how much you have, how much you can safely store. I now have 3 big bags now, I think. And I bake my own bread, so it does get used. The next thing that I thought I would talk to you about, they think that milk will continue to rise in price. Any idea why? Why would milk here in North America go up in price because of what's happening in Ukraine? Let's see if you can do the thinking on that one. I was quite surprised I hadn't thought about that, but I hadn't. And so therefore, in terms of stocking up, think about getting that milk that has a long shelf life. Milk to go has a long shelf life. And think about moving to oat milk rather than so forth. Yeah, Jody's saying the feed will be more expensive. Absolutely. And not only that, but if you think about it as well, the fertilizer that grows the feed is going to be non-existent. Right. So, yes, Irit's saying that Israel grows a lot of its own wheat. So does Canada, and so does the US. But you understand, in terms of world hunger, Irit, uh, a lot of countries don't grow their own wheat, and they rely on that wheat that, Africa relies a lot on that wheat that comes out of the Ukraine. And because they will be starving without it, we will be sending a lot of our wheat, and probably Israel will send as well, to help stop mass starvation in Africa and maybe India as well. So we know that gas prices are fluctuating. They sort of go up and they go down a bit and then they go up again. So just be aware it's not going to stop until that war is over, and probably after that. Some of you will have noticed again that furniture is very, very expensive. The supply chain is really messing everything up. And the shipping costs, of course, are insane at the moment. Now, here's something else. How much oil, cooking oil, do you have stored? Let me get some sort of idea of how prepared you all are. I'll read you what I read about it. It said that Ukraine and Russia produce most of the world's sunflower oil. And they're obviously not planting, right? The price of oils and fats for food has already increased by over 7%. That was in March, it had already increased by 7%. It's nearly a quarter more expensive than a year ago. Between them, Ukraine and Russia produce most of the world's sunflower oil, and the war has inevitably disrupted exports, leading to increased prices. Hi, Sandy. Good to see you. So think about that. If get a big bottle of oil, in like a 5-liter gallon. How about that? If you can get a gallon of oil or a big tin of oil, I don't think you will ever consider that to be a waste. But I just thought I would give you a heads up on that one. Now, the other thing, we were talking about milk. If milk is going to go insane in price, do you understand that cheese will as well? I've already found that my cheese that I buy has gone up. quite a bit. And, for the same reason that we were saying that milk would. So just be aware and be careful. Now, understand that this is not about people price gouging you. This is about, how can I put it this way? If there isn't any sunflower, if there aren't any sunflower seeds being mass produced, you understand they cannot mass produce oil. So Irit's saying she's got at least 8 bottles of oil. How many have I got? I've got about 4 liter bottles, and then I've got a big jug. Okay, so I've probably got about 12 liters standing by. I don't use oil very much, and also olive oil. All right, so that's the other thing. Think about using olive oil more and less of the sunflower oils. All right, I wanted to just, while we're talking about inflation, I also wanted to talk about the recession. Now, first, before we talk about this, recession, I just want to make sure you all understand what GDP is. Because whenever we talk about recession, we also talk about isn't that cute? GDP, which is gross domestic product, and it measures the monetary value of the final goods and services that a country produces. All right, that is those that are bought by the final user. And what I heard here is that if you have 2 quarters, now 2 seasons, where the gross domestic product drops rather than increase. Obviously, if you're making a lot of stuff and turning over a lot of money and making profit, the gross domestic product is going up. But if that turns and starts going down for 2 consecutive seasons, it's actually quarters of the year, but let's say seasons, then that's called a recession. And I'm pretty certain that that is what we have now. Because all our economies will be shrinking, whether we like it or not. Now, what I did is I did a bit of research, because I know that you guys always appreciate that. I found out that the big recession that happened way back in the early 1900s, that one lasted 8 months. And you all know the devastation there was around that. All right. But the second one I wanted to talk about was the one that we had in 2008. That one lasted over 19 months. So understand that these high prices could be going on for the next 2 years. Are you prepared? I thought it was quite interesting. I saw a heartbreaking story about some Ukrainians that are holed up in the eastern part of Ukraine. And they literally lived for 2 weeks by grinding down their own wheat and then making bread. And that's all they had to eat for 2 weeks, was their own homemade bread. So again, think about that if you don't know how to what can I say? If you don't know how to bake your own bread, it's a really good idea to learn, because I think buying pre-made bread is going to be really, really expensive. All right, so I wanted to talk a little bit about what happened to me just before Easter. And it has to do with boundaries, and it has to do with anger. And have any of you ever been really, really angry? But what you didn't realize was that you were really angry. And then suddenly it was like the floodgates opened and you just let rip. I had one of those happen to me, and it wasn't pretty and I wasn't proud of it, but it happened. And even though I tried to protect myself from it, it still happened. And I wanted to talk a little bit around what I did to process it, and also why it was so important for me to process it the way that I did. So if any of you have been angry, would you agree, even if we can't immediately identify the reason why, we've all got a reason for getting angry? All right? And we can get upset, that's fine. But anger comes from a different place. And I think you all know that. So if ever you have had that happen to you, I hope you will understand the story I'm about to tell you. It is not easy for me to say, but my brother, as some of you know, is due to come and visit. And that is fine. And I sort of went, okay, fine. And, I know that he has a different way of living his life. And so when he told me that he was coming without checking to see whether it suited me for that time of the year or anything, I just sort of raised my eyebrows and said, okay, fine, big brother. And then I started to indirectly just get prepared, as I think you all would, right? We get prepared for things like that. And I was just sort of on a nice schedule of what I needed to do between now and the end of May, which is when he was meant to be coming, when he changed the dates again. Now, how many of you know when that happened, I was irritated, but compassionate. These things happen. But all the plans I'd made, because he moved the date forward, now were affecting me more directly because now I had less time in which to do the things I wanted to do. You all with the story so far? Now know that the dates changed 2 more times. And what was originally a visit at the end of May suddenly became a visit in the first part of May. And then, Jeannie's saying, one likes to be prepared. I agree with you, Jeannie, and to have things ready, right? And she's saying, I dislike spur of the moment visits. Well, can you imagine the dates changing 4 times in the space of less than a month, and going from the end of a month to near the beginning of the month? And so you can probably imagine by the time that happened, and then I heard, if that wasn't enough, I then heard he wasn't going to be able to come to Canada because they had a problem with visas, and therefore I wouldn't, need to go to the States to see him. Well, about then, something snapped in my brain, and I'm pretty certain that you all can imagine it. But I suddenly went, I don't have a car that is reliable enough to take me into the States, quite honestly. I can do a local trip. That's okay because I can get hauled back quite easily. But, doing a trip into the States isn't as easy for me in a car that's not reliable. And so, you look at it and you go, this is not really working for me. And so what I did was I thought about it and I realized I was a bit upset. And then I got a moment of clarity. And the clarity was, hey, plan your trip, but leave me out of it. In other words, just don't worry about seeing me. Move on. Well, obviously, he didn't like that as an answer. And he said he'd like me to think about it for a while before I said that. Well, actually, what he didn't know was I did think about it for a while before I said it, but never mind. So then I thought about it a whole lot more. And when I thought about it, I thought about how often had I heard from him in the last 2 years. And the only time I had heard from him was to tell me that that Canada sucks. He did that a couple of times. We're way too liberal. And then the other times that he wrote to me was to send me links to far right propaganda. And as you all probably know, those of you who are regular viewers, I'm not a far right person. I live in Canada and I like our politics. Thank you. And I like our country and I'm proud of it. So I don't want you bashing my country every time you come to visit me. And I realized that was part of my anger. I wasn't looking forward to that because it happens. The only time he writes to me is to either bash Canada or else to, give me some sort of propaganda. So I went, I really don't need him to visit. It was like a moment. I don't know if any of you can relate to this. It was almost like a moment of clarity. And then I got scared because what do I know? What I know is this is not going to go down well with my other sibling, and it didn't. Because within a heartbeat, that went bad as well. So I ended up in a situation where both my siblings were really upset with me. And I just explained to them that I needed to protect my heart and my memories. And therefore, I was going to go silent. And I did warn them, tell them it was going to happen. And I said, the reason I want to cancel this part of the trip is because I want to remember the good times. I don't want to have a visit where, I am upset and being told how to think, etc. So, it was interesting because I got hold of my brother on Skype and said, all right, I think I waited 3 days, I think, and then said, okay, I think I'm ready to discuss it now. And one of the questions I asked him is, why are you coming? Makes sense? I said, is it just for a sense of duty? I'm your sister, so you should visit. And he said, no, I want you to meet the woman I'm spending my life with. And I am sorry, I called him on that. I said, with all due respect, if you had wanted me to meet the woman you're spending your life with and you've been with for at least 3 years, don't you think you would have Skyped? He lives in another country. Don't you think you would have Skyped by now? Set up a Zoom meeting or something just so I could get to know her. But you have done nothing. By the way, you have told me nothing about her. So therefore, I don't think you want me to meet her at all. The way that you think you do. Because if you had wanted me to get to know her, surely you would have been talking about her. And he hasn't. So I said, I don't buy that. I don't buy it. And, it wasn't a pleasant discussion. I want to read out a quote, and it says, the only people who get upset about you setting boundaries are the ones who were benefiting from you not having any. How many of you can relate to that? So when I set the boundary and said, no, I don't want, please just leave me out of this visit, I knew it hasn't happened yet, but I still know it's coming, which is somebody is going to say to me, but it could be the last time you get to see him, which is a reality, but also a guilt trip. And, I made sure I thought that one through pretty well and went, could I live with myself if that were true? Could I live with myself if I never saw him again? Or would I be heartbroken because I missed this visit? And I realized what my mind had given me in that split second was I need to protect my heart and my memories. Was really important. Really important. I don't want to mess with that. Now you're saying there's no guarantee. Hi, Manon. Oh, Manon's saying I can relate to that quote. Good. Okay. And by the way, for those who don't know, Manon comes to us all the way from south of France. Poor thing. Imagine having to live in the south of France. That really nice part of the south of France, too. How about this one? It says boundaries. If someone throws a fit because you set a boundary, it's just more evidence that the boundary was needed. Right? And so, do you all understand that I have every right to set my boundary and say, no visit? Right. And Jeannie's saying, my brother and I were not friends. He is deceased. He was 11 and a half years older than I was. All right. It caused me a lot of heartache. Yes, this was, and Jeannie's saying she also set up boundaries as well because she had to. I just realized I didn't want the stress, and I didn't want the judgments, and I didn't want any of the BS that goes with the visits. When I really thought back and went, do you enjoy those visits? Well, when I took him camping, yeah, but you guys only saw the good bits. You didn't see the underlying bits, obviously. And so think of, it was just like, when I spoke to him, I said, one of the things that I need to talk to you about is, all the time of the fire that I had a fire. I said, did you ever really care about what was going on? Did you really ever care about what was going on in my life? Other than the superficial, I'm sorry to hear that, are you okay? Just after it happened. After that, I heard very little from him about whether I was coping, how my mental health was, what I was doing to keep my mental health in check and so forth. And I said, I am very upset about that. All right. So did I take a huge risk? Yeah. Hi, Nyasha. Nyasha saying, hi, everyone. I can relate to this. This is a great topic. So when we set a boundary, there must be loss. Ah, interesting. Monkey Mango. I don't know how you pronounce that. All right. It's saying that a great topic. I'm a floor mat. I'm still learning to set boundaries. And Manon is saying, oh no, he didn't care. Well, I'm not saying he didn't care, Manon. I didn't hear that he cared. Does that mean he didn't care? It's possible that he did, but he never voiced it. He never said, let's get real for a second. All right, and tell me what's really going on. Which, quite honestly, my close friends did. Because my close friends know that I am a performer by nature of my past. I was a professional speaker. I learned to close off those sort of things and just carry on with the work, right? Because you need to do that. But, they were really, really good about debriefing me. And I want to talk about that in a second. Hi there. Kimmy is saying, I get tired of trying. Yeah, I realized I didn't want to try. Why would I realized I had just getting settled after the second time of unpacking this house in 2 years, right? One time unpacking when I first moved in, and I hadn't quite finished it. And then the fire, everything got packed up and taken out, and I'm still unpacking from the second time. I am got enough stress going on. I don't need any more. I am trying very hard to stay balanced. And if that means protecting my heart and my memories, that's what I decided I needed to do. Jeannie's saying all the trying was one-sided. It felt like that. I'm certain if you heard his story, it would be different. But for me, it felt like that. Mandy Hale said it is necessary and even vital to set standards for your life and the people you allow in it. All right? So this is about, now I need to tell you, because I'm pretty certain you all know the next part of this story, which is how many of you have the sort of upbringing that brings guilt? I'm not a Catholic, but I'm a high Anglican. I was brought up as a high Anglican. So the nuns did a good number on me. So immediately I am busy beating up on myself for the fact that I am a bad sister, and why didn't you turn the other cheek, and da 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 da. And blood is thicker than water, and you need to just no, I needed to look after myself, and I knew it. Yes, guilt indeed. That guilt thing for those of us who understand that. The guilt, I could hear the nuns talking to me saying, this isn't what we taught you. And I went, no, but you didn't teach me to look after myself either. So just don't go there, nuns. I remember you well, and I remember your teachings. But, there has to be a time when protecting my heart and my memories at this age is really important for me. And not going, I'm already on blood pressure pills. It's like, really, I don't need more stress. How about this one? I like this quote, and it says, you are not required to set yourself on fire to keep others warm. And what I said to my brother, is I just want to give you my memories of some of the things that have happened on your previous trips. The day that you told me I didn't know how to load my own dishwasher. It really sticks in my mind. Or the fact that I opened a wheel of brie cheese, and apparently, in his view, it wasn't, I shouldn't be eating it. It wasn't ready. I'm going, I can eat it. You don't want to, that's fine. Or, there were so many things. It was almost without fail that every day those judgments came in. The fact that the bottle of wine wasn't 7 years old, was important. Kimmy's saying, I have people in my life that want me to keep apologizing for the same thing over and over. Yeah. So I took a big risk, and I realized that the risk was monumental, but I needed it to do it. But then came the guilt. And I realized as the guilt started to really eat at me, that I needed some help. So, I spoke to, obviously, my dear friend Yvonne, and also to Marnie, that you know about. And they did, they both know me so well, and they also know the family dynamics very well. And they were really wonderful about debriefing me. Yeah, Jeannie's saying, about the constant correction of, the right way to load. Now, Jeannie, can you believe that somewhere in there, he was trying to help me, right? That he did think he knew a better way to load the dishwasher, and it had some logic to it. So, you know what I mean? It was just like, yeah, but I'm quite happy. I can remember getting really upset with Benji once, who was telling me how to fry something in a pan. And I said, oh, lumpia. Those of you who know Benji and his lumpia. It was so funny because he was telling me how to cook with oil. And I said, I don't know if you've noticed, I got gray hair. I've been cooking with oil for a long time. And I'm aware of, and by the way, he nearly burnt the first bit that he was demonstrating on. And I said, I personally don't like mine as well cooked as that. But yeah. How about this one? Daring to set boundaries is about having the courage to love ourselves, even when we risk disappointing others. Can any of you imagine that when I made that decision, we'll talk about the guilt processing in a minute, can you imagine that for a split second there was just a weight off my shoulders? I no longer had to rush to get things ready. I no longer needed to worry about food and changing my budget so I could feed him, while he was here. even though he would insist on taking me out and paying for the meals. Um, so, it's like there was a really two strange feelings. Number one was the clarity, like, I'm not looking forward to this. Why am I doing it? And then the second one was, phew. um, but as I said, and here's the difference. I like this quote, and I hope you do as well. Walls keep everybody out, but boundaries teach people where the door is. I like that quote. My whole reason for doing this was not because I don't love my brother. The whole reason for doing this is to remind my brother not to take me for granted. Oh, there was another part to this story that you need to know. 90% of the communication he did about this trip and the changing of dates and everything else came via my sister. He didn't bother to contact me directly. So I don't know about you. It was just like, no, enough. Jeannie's saying, Sal, you do not need the stress. It became a terrible time of stress. It did. And that's when I realized that each one of these changes that was happening and each one of the shifts in what was going was making me a little more angry. And then on that particular day, I went, that's enough. I don't want this. And it was shocking to me that I didn't want it. Right? Can you imagine the guilt of not wanting to see your own brother? Yeah. Setting boundaries is your responsibility. People will continue to do what you allow. You get to decide what is and isn't allowed in your life. All right. And I made a point when I had taken a few days to settle down and get my thoughts in order. I made a point of saying, you changed the dates 4 times and not once did you ask, was that okay? And that is not okay. That is arrogant and bad-mannered in my book. So this story wasn't just this had been, I realized, leading up quite a lot. And if none of the changes had happened, I probably would have been okay. And then the guilt hit. And by the way, I got a couple of jabs back that were guilt laden. And I just went, I understand why he's attacking me back. He didn't do a lot of it, quite honestly, because I think he was probably in shock because he didn't expect that from me. But it was just like, the few things that he picked up on, he did a guilt trip back. And one of them, I agreed with him, with his judgment. I said, yeah, I agree with you. Because I found that's the fastest way to stop somebody. Monkey is saying everything happens for a reason. Yes. Probably 5 years from now, I'll know what that is. Let's hope that I still know that I made that. I actually do know I made the right decision. How many of you can imagine that for the first couple of days, first week, I was in trauma? And if any of you have done this, I know that Kimmy's done it with family members. I know Jody has. You go into a sort of trauma, all right, where you go out of just living your happy, normal life to suddenly being in survival. And I did that for a week. And I knew that I was in that mode because I couldn't get things done in the house. All right. I couldn't control my mind enough to get up and do things that I needed to do. I did the very important things like put food in my body. Now, here's the other thing that scared me so much was, would I start smoking again? I want to tell you, I got this close to just, going and getting a packet of cigarettes, but I didn't. And the way I stopped myself was going, do not let them have that much control of your mind. Right? Do what you need to do. Rest, pamper yourself. Don't worry about anything else. Just, do what you need to do for you for a week and don't smoke. And I didn't. I was so proud of myself. Um, this quote makes me laugh, and I'll explain afterwards. It says, "You have to learn to say no without feeling guilty. Setting boundaries is healthy. You need to learn respect and take care of yourself." And that was a thing that I realized, that this was about respect. Yeah. Both Jody and Jeannie, and Manon, are saying they're really glad I didn't smoke. But can you imagine how close I got to it? Because I really felt disrespected. Yeah, Kimmy relates to the respect angle as well. That's what I felt, disrespected. Number one, he kept changing the dates. I don't care what the reasons were. I believe it was him that taught me your lack of planning does not give me a reason to have your stress. All right. I can't remember the exact quote, but basically, I don't need to get stressed because you haven't organized this properly. And got itchy nose. Sorry, people. Anyway, so now the question is, why did I feel the guilt? Oh, hang on a second. Manon saying, I remember how hard it was for you to stop smoking. You did such beautiful work stopping it. Yes, and I'm still proud of myself. And now I'm pleased to tell you the other thing I didn't do that I nearly did was to comfort eat. Do you all know what I'm talking about? I didn't go, I'm going to let go of the way I'm eating, and I have managed to stay. I'm still 10 pounds down this year. And by the way, I think it was Jeannie who said that she really thought I was looking good. Thank you so much, Jeannie. I'm getting there. I'm on my way from obese to overweight. And I'm now nearly at the point, I think I nearly am, right? Because if I'm going to accentuate this, but I started like this, where my stomach was way out of my line. And now I'm beginning to see that I'm getting shape back. And so I didn't comfort eat. I had a couple of things I shouldn't have done, but basically I held my weight. I didn't drop any. And I think I put on 0.2 or 0.4 pounds. I'm happy with that. You know what I could have done. Right. So Manon saying, I've been thinking since I got onto this live stream that you have lost some weight. Yeah, I've lost 17 pounds in the last 2 years, but 10 of them this year. And Jeannie's saying, you are strong and sticking to your principles. Yay, it was so difficult, Jeannie. I don't mind telling you. So difficult. And then, as I said, the second guessing with the guilt. I was given some by both siblings, and I was expecting that. But then it was the number that I did to myself. How about this? I like this as a quote about it. It said, at first, you will probably feel selfish, guilty, or embarrassed when you set a boundary. Do it anyway, and tell yourself you have the right to self-care. Setting boundaries takes practice and determination. Don't let anxiety or low self-esteem prevent you from taking care of yourself. Kimmy's saying toxic people can make a person feel guilty. Actually, I'm going to challenge you on that one a bit, Kimmy, that I believe that we feel means that we can control it. So I don't believe that toxic people can make me feel guilty. I would rather say I felt guilty about disobeying the nuns. That would be where the guilt level was for me. But I know that if it's a feeling, it's on me. And so part of the guilt was I told the truth. How many of you can relate to that? And I did. And it was not easy to tell the truth. All right. But I knew I needed to speak up one time to say, this is not okay. Yeah, interesting. Jeannie's saying, I find it offensive that your brother went through your sister and not talked to you directly. All right. So, Jeannie, again, think about, why did he do that? Because I did. Yeah, I'm a compassionate person. He didn't want to keep repeating it twice. It's all about him, not about anybody else. I like this quote as well. It said, I set boundaries not to offend you, but to respect myself. And that's why I did it. And here is another quote I want to talk to you about, because to me, this is also so important to remember. Avoid people who, one, mess with your head. Did I know that I was going to have my country dissed again? Our prime minister dissed again? Did I know that I was going to get my politics dissed again? There were so many things. I didn't buy the right wine, or whatever. It was like I knew what was coming, and I didn't want to do it anymore. So number one, avoid people who mess with your head. Why would I look forward to that? How about people who intentionally and repeatedly do and say things they know upset you? Hello? I think you all know my very close friend Marnie, right? She's on that, probably no, not probably. She is in my top 3 friends, and she has a different political point of view. And I look forward to discussing politics with her. Why? She never disses me for what I believe. All right? And she'll go da 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 da, and I'll go, yeah, but I think da 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 da, and she'll go, good point. I'm come from the place where da da da, and it's really just that congenial. It is pleasant. All right, it is pleasant. I love it when I can. I know that Jeannie and I come from polar opposites in terms of our political thing, but I love it that Jeannie is always here, and that I can get her point of view every now and then when I get more confused. So to me, why would you want somebody in your house who intentionally and repeatedly do things they know upset you? And then how about this one? People who expect you to prioritize them, but refuse to prioritize you. That was true. How about this one? People who can't and won't apologize sincerely. I actually did apologize, not for what I was thinking, but for something that I said. And people who act like the victim when confronted with their abusive behavior. How many of you can see that at some level this was abusive behavior? And if I let it continue, I was saying yes to people messing with my head, and I don't like that. I think you all know that I am a pretty compassionate person, and I turn the other cheek all the time. You've watched me do it, and you've watched how many times people need to mess with my head before I say, that's it. I can think of a couple of viewers where I knew I would risk losing them by calling them on stuff, and I did. But to me, it was like the stress that you're causing me is outweighed by the fact I could lose you as a viewer. The interesting thing is that both of them have come back to me since, not on the broadcast, but privately, which I find interesting. Yeah. Jeannie's saying such persons are down deep, either ego ridden, or very unhappy. I think it's ego. He knows better about everything. Kimmy's saying, I can't put up with it anymore because the stress will kill me this time. Yes. And, that's exactly why I said I needed to protect my heart, literally. I don't mean my romantic heart. I mean, I needed to protect my heart from that amount of stress. It said that daring to set boundaries is about having the courage to love ourselves, even when we risk disappointing others. It is the courage to love yourself enough. And by the way, can you imagine the guilt trip of, well, it could be the last time, and how could you do that? And I'm going, yeah, it could be. And if it is, I'm still okay with that decision. All right. Yeah. And Kimmy's saying she can't afford the stress anymore because she has a pacemaker. All right. And you don't have to have a pacemaker or blood pressure issues to put down a boundary. But what I want you to see was, oh, she's saying she ended up with a pacemaker. Yeah, exactly. What I want you to see, though, was my anger actually gave me the answers I was looking for. What I did was I spoke to Marnie, who I said to her, I need my counselor. Now, of course, Marnie isn't a counselor, but she's my friend. And that's what friends are for, right? And what Marnie knows is that I will have done most of the work on this myself, because she knows me well. I do. I process things a lot and try and find out why did I get upset and da 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 da. But it was incredible when I spoke to her. That she asked me some really good questions. And I said, I thank you for these great questions. She said, guess where I learned them from? Yeah, okay. But she was asking me really great questions. And what I thought was really cute was at the end of the discussion, she said, you've obviously processed nearly all of this. There were a couple of bits I hadn't quite processed, but I had processed out most of it. And she said to me, you are one of the wisest people I know in terms of processing stuff. And she said, who doesn't see the hurt? All right. Who doesn't see the hurt that all that caused? And I went, guess who? Manon is saying, I can imagine the guilt trip. I have put down some boundaries with my grandparents, only seeing them twice a year. And the mental space that it gave me was so amazing. But my mind is like, and they are not young anymore. What if they die? Well, they're going to die, but how do you know you won't die before them? All right. And, this is the other thing. This is the whole point about setting a boundary. If you don't do that for your mental health, if you can't stop them abusing, I don't know in what way you feel. Do you feel abused in some way by them? That's why you needed to limit the amount you see them. And that was where part of my guilt was. Gosh, I only get to see him once every sort of 3 to 5 years. So, why don't, and that was the question I got asked, of course, why don't I just suck it up? And this is like, no. If this had all gone pretty smoothly, I would have been okay. But to have it change so many times, and then, we're not coming to Canada, now you've got to come to the States. And, it was just like, something, I don't need this. I don't need this. Boundaries protect the things that are of value to you. They keep you in alignment with what you have decided you want in life. That means the key to good boundaries is knowing what you want. Yeah, Kimmy's saying I would just walk away, but it still ate at me on the inside. Yeah, I was resentful and angry. I'm learning to let it go and get rid of it. Yes. So this is why I'm saying, can you imagine how angry I was? But what I found was that when I was working through it one more time with Marnie, she kept saying, what else made you angry? And I kept bringing up these points. And when I do this sort of stuff, the language gets pretty colorful. I'm afraid to say, but when I'm telling the truth, I'm just not a little upset. I am upset, and and it was funny how I know that my friends who know me well know I don't vent very often, and never mind at that level. And so therefore, when I vent, language is likely to fly a bit. Manon's saying, oh, where do I start? My grandmother has been training me since I was born for being alive and for ruining her mum's future, even when my mum was so happy with her decision. Yeah, wicked. That is wicked, isn't it? But if she understood what we understood, I'm sure she wouldn't do it. I'm sure she wouldn't do it. I don't think, quite honestly, Manon, I don't think my brother realized what he had done over the years. And part of me, yeah, it's narcissistic. Exactly, Kimmy. Wow, good for you. That's exactly what it is. It's narcissistic. He only cares about him and what he wants. And, and anyway, so, all right. Another quote. Setting boundaries doesn't make me mean. I can set limits and expectations for my life and still be nice. Considering your wishes doesn't mean I have to do what you think I should. And my feelings and thoughts are part of the decision. And if you don't like it, that belongs to you. I was pretty proud of myself that I don't think I was wicked. I was honest about my feelings, and I kept owning them and saying, this is a feeling I have and I'm angry and that's on me, but I need you to know why I got angry. And Jeannie's saying your anger appeared to lead to a cleansing of your situation. That surprised me. There were a couple of things that really surprised me, Jeannie. And by the way, bonus point, Jeannie, that you could see that. All right. But what surprised me was how clear I was when I was talking about it and debriefing, how clear I was about the first time was okay. Second time, not so good. But, third time, fourth time, now I'm up to here. It's like who's pressing your buttons and they keep pressing it. And then I realized that as I really got to process it, I realized there was so much more. I was not looking forward to sitting down and being told I was, indirectly being told I was stupid because I vote for the wrong parties. I didn't want to have a long conversation again and again and again about how right he was. Or if I played a game with him and I beat him, that he changed the rules so that he could beat me maybe, but rarely did. Those sort of things. It's just like, I don't want this. I just don't need it in my life. I am not in a mental place to be able to cope with it. And I'm okay with it. And yes, that was the point I was going to say, Jeannie, that when I talked to Marnie about it, when we finished, and it took about an hour for us to get, as deep as I could go. And because she just kept saying, and what else are you angry about? And what else? And I just, and luckily I had mentioned most of it to him. But, the interesting thing was at the end of it, she said, do you feel more free now? And I went, yeah, thank you. But I still had to let go of the nuns. How many of you are getting this thing that I keep coming back to the nuns and religion? So then I realized there was one more person I needed to speak to, and that's Benji. Why? Because he's, knows me pretty well, and he's Catholic. So I can, talk through certain things with him because he's aware, known me a long time. And, we had really great conversation. And I'm so glad. And that's what I realized as well, how thankful I was to have these people in my life that helped me see that what I did was not be nasty. What I did was clearly to protect myself. Now, am I being narcissistic by thinking about me and not thinking about how they would react to this? No, I've been there and done that. I've been there and done that. I spend a lot of time biting the bullet to fit in with other people's needs. It was enough now. Generous people set boundaries. If you don't set boundaries, you're giving yourself away. With boundaries, you only give what you want, which means you can afford to be generous to more people over a longer period of time. You know, do you understand that by setting that boundary, it said not just this trip, if you ever come near me again, be aware that I am not putting up with this anymore. Now, it may be that I never speak to him again. That's a possibility. All right. But I didn't even go into the fact that he never acknowledges my birthday. Now, the other thing that I was a bit sad about, and I don't mind being honest about that because it came up in my discussion, was this is my 75th birthday year. I didn't want to lose a couple of people in my life for that year or any other year. But if that's the price that I have to pay to stay sane, then so be it. Love yourself enough to set boundaries. Your time and energy are precious. You teach people how to treat you by deciding what you will and will not accept. Think about it. And how many of you know that quote, if you love something, give it away. If it comes back, it was yours. And if it doesn't, it never was. And so to me, it's like, I have to believe at some level that we will not hold the grudge necessarily, but I also know that I need time to recover. And probably the whole family does. And some may end up talking to me again, and others may not. And then we go back to Jodi's favorite quote that I quote quite regularly, which is, the word no is a complete sentence. I could have just said no, and I choose not to explain it, but I chose to let him have the knowledge. But I worked really hard to try and keep it non-violent communication. I lost it a bit in places. I'm not perfect. But just as Jeannie so rightly said, that the anger appeared to lead to a cleansing of the situation for me, and it did. The anger made me see that I was being used. That's why I got angry. This was like, it lacked respect, right? Kimmy was big on picking up on this one. It lacked respect. And the fact that it was 9 times out of 10 through my sister, not directly at me, lacked respect. And I realize that the people I choose to have in my life are very respectful of me. That is a major thing. That, to me, to respect who I am and what I stand for, whether you agree with me or not, that is important. And I remind you that my friend Marnie and I always look forward. You guys have seen me where I'm going, I'm going to have dinner with Marnie this week. I always respect her way of being able to debate. And that's what it is. It's a debate. It's not like I made the wrong decision. I made a decision how to vote based on what I believe. And yes, you have the right to give me a few pointers, right? And I think, it's just like, it's how you do it. It's not that I don't want to hear an opposing view. It's how you do it. And if in giving me your opposing view, right, you're putting me down constantly, time and time and time again, why would I want to look forward to that? I can't see, maybe I can. Who said this? Cheryl Richardson said, I am the master of setting boundaries that protect my time, my energy, my creativity, and my emotional well-being. How many of you have found that you are improving that? Right? I'm not sure I'm a master at it yet. But how many of you know now that it's not okay for people to just presume that everything that they do is okay with you? That is not okay. All right? People who physically abuse people and then come back and say, "Oh, I am so sorry, I'll never do it again." That is not okay. What you did, it's a bit like, it doesn't matter what Will Smith does, the fact that he violently hit Chris Rock, all right, the fact that he viciously hit him and then proceeded to abuse him verbally, that's the bit nobody's going to get over. It's not that he protected his wife. They can understand that. It's how he did it. That was an anger of, took control. And I am certain in his own mind, Will Smith probably says, hey, it's not going to make a whole lot of difference to my life. I can see what I did wrong, but in a way, I'm still glad I did it. Because I'm sure a lot of us got to talking about it and seeing it from both sides if we are emotionally intelligent, because we need to see it. But it was like, I don't think it's going to hurt him that much. And by the way, does he need the money? No. It says, don't justify, apologize, or rationalize the healthy boundary you are setting. Do not argue, just set the boundary calmly, firmly, clearly, and respectfully. I could have improved on that. When I process it, I'm laughing because I'm a bit embarrassed. I could have done slightly better on that one. I kept thinking about the nonviolent communication, observe, feel, state your case. And, it was just like, I really just, I, I wasn't perfect, but I was pretty good. I didn't lose it a lot. I was kept to the facts. I try to keep the emotion out of it, but then I have to say, this hurt me, and I am aware that is on me because it's a feeling. The feeling was hurt. But disrespect is what caused the hurt. And disrespect was an action. Yes, Kimmy's saying, has anyone been watching the Johnny Depp Amber Heard trial? It will make you think about yourself and the things happening in your life. Absolutely. And isn't it horrific what we are hearing? That they could have had a relationship that was that violent. But don't you all agree? And maybe you don't. I think there's a very fine line between love and hate. A very fine line. And when I say there's a fine line between love and hate, to cross that line, it can happen in a heartbeat. Yes, they both need help. I agree with you, Kimmy. It's just like, and for a while, Johnny Depp looked like he was the, guilty, innocent party until you start hearing what he was emailing his friends. But there's part of me that goes, emailing your friends is about venting, but it was vicious, wasn't it? Want to burn her before, or it was horrible. So what we're finding, and this is the thing again, I thought it interesting. Barack Obama was talking about disinformation and the power of the internet, and so forth. But this is the thing. In the old days, we would never have seen that. Why? We didn't have text messaging. It would have been a telephone conversation that we would not be privy to, but now, because of social media, they can hunt down. And this is why it's a big reminder to all of us: be very careful what you say on social media. Right? Be very careful what you say on social media. because the record is there. And so I look at it and go, a lot of my processing was not about him, it was about me. Why had I not spoken up earlier was one of the questions I asked myself. All right. Why did I let it get to this stage before I opened my big mouth and said something that this was not okay? And the reason was because of the nuns and the turn the other cheek and blood is thicker than water and, compromise, so forth. And it is like my moral training kept standing in the way. And I then realized, something? I need to look after me and my heart and my memories. And I really am not in a place anymore to be able to play with that. Christine Morgan said this. She said, setting boundaries is a way of caring for myself. It doesn't have to make me mean, selfish, or uncaring. Just because I don't do things your way, it means I care about me. Do you all agree that in 75 years, all right, I load the dishwasher the way I like to load it. I'm certain if I got all of us together and we all had a dishwasher in front of us and the same cups, saucers, whatever, I bet you we all load it differently. How many of you agree with me? By the way, some of you are going, if I had a dishwasher. So I don't want to presume that, but you understand, we all know the way that works for us. All right? And so do I need to be told how to do that? No. Kimmy is saying, I'm not Catholic, but I was taught the same. Yeah, exactly. Yeah, you see, Jody's saying, I agree. This is about loading the dishwasher. We would all do it differently. I'm going to say if I had a dishwasher. Right? You're not the only one. I know other viewers that I've got don't have dishwashers, but you get the principle of it. By the way, how many of you know it would totally mess with my schedule? Why? I don't get up until late in the morning now. And they go to bed very early and get up very early. And so who was going to have to change? I'd already been told that that she goes to bed very early at night, like 8 o'clock or something. I'm going, wow, I'm only having lunch by then. But you understand, it was just like, wow. Yeah, and Kimmy's saying, I am the dishwasher. Yeah, and I'm pretty certain you know how to wash your own dishes, right? And this was another great quote, I thought. Stop asking why they keep doing it and start asking why you keep allowing it. And Manon is saying, because she knows me well, and you need coffee before meeting a soul. I need 2 cups of coffee before my brain starts to function. Even the other day, I was talking to Jody about something, and I said, I'm about to get my second cup, and she said, then I'll go away. And I went, no, it's okay. Because she knows until I've had my second cup of coffee, my brain is not really fully engaged. And I admit that. But, do you think that they would be changing their schedule to fit into the way I sleep? I don't think so. Yes, Kimmy, we are taught to allow these things. We are taught to turn the other cheek. We are taught to not put ourselves first. Pity, isn't it? Gerard Manley Hopkins said, your personal boundaries protect the inner core of your identity and your right to choices. I like that. Yeah, when Manon stayed with me for a few days, it was one of the things I said to her, isn't Manon? I might smile and say good morning, but really, if I'm still on my first cup of coffee and my mind's not functioning, don't ask me anything intelligent. Well, probably don't ask me anything intelligent after the second one either. Step 1, set a boundary on what you do not want to hear, see, or do. Set the boundaries. Yeah, how many of you have done that with maybe your grandchildren? I know you're allowed to throw peas across the dining room table at home, but while you're in my house, no. You see, children can respect that. They understand different places, different rules. All right? 2, decide limits, what you will and will not tolerate. And I realized the reason I was so angry because the button that kept getting pushed was my respect button, lack of respect button. Not only did the dates keep changing, but also it wasn't directly with me. It was third-party stuff. So, that was what I realized was so important. Pay attention to people's, reactions. If your boundaries made somebody mad, then that person was abusing you. All right? And then the lesson, someone that loves you would never hurt you, period. Learn this and self-love, and you will be okay. Kimmy's saying, I always get disrespected. Well, because the reason we get disrespected is because we didn't say something. We were not heard. And, I'm not saying that makes you weak because, Kimmy, this is something we all have to learn because we're not taught to stand up and set a boundary. Or in my generation, we certainly weren't. And in all my upbringing, right, turn the other cheek was always more important than anything else. Kimmy says, I say something, but it causes problems. Yes, it will always cause problems when you set a boundary. The thing is to be consistent, Kimmy, and then they will get it eventually. In other words, if you have a boundary and you say, let's say it's about swearing at you. I'm not saying that anybody does that, but let's say that's what it is. And you sort of, first time you say to them, hey, I wonder if you'd be good enough not to swear at me. And then they continue to do it another time. And you go, why? Do you remember the thing about where I asked you not to swear at me? You get to make your choice, but I want to tell you, if you continue to swear at me, I'm just going to walk away. Because, until you've calmed down and we can have a proper conversation. And then the next time it happens, if they swear, you just go, I did warn you. I need to go away now. And Kimmy's saying, I get told I'm being mean. Yes, because they tried to push you and manipulate you and you stood strong. And yes, they will bounce against you for that. All right. And they will call you names. Can you imagine the names I've been called? All right. They will do that. That's part of the process because people don't like it when you put down a boundary. But it doesn't mean they shouldn't be there. Boundaries are part of self-care. They are healthy, normal, and necessary. All right? And as long as you have breath in your body, know that it is okay to set your own boundary. But know you're going to pay the price. All right? Yeah, and Kimmy's saying, I've learned that it isn't on the parents, all right? It's not the parents' fault. No, nor is it really the nuns, all right? I agree with you, all right? It's just what I bought into. What what that training from the nuns put into my brain was obviously very solid. Isn't it the Jesuits that said, give me a child until they're 7 and I've got them for life? And so, I know that upbringing that I had, that very religious upbringing in my school years, created some wonderful values. Don't get me wrong. I'm very grateful for some of the values that I have. But boy, did it fail me on the right to protect myself. And some of you will probably know of what I speak. All right, so Manon says she needs to go. I'm happy I was able to spend some time with you. Great to see you, Manon. And bonsoir. Yeah, well, it's early soir. Yeah, it is bonsoir. À bientôt. And here is what they said. You are allowed to set boundaries, and you are allowed to wave goodbye to anyone who doesn't respect them. Right? So important. And I just want you to feel that getting angry was a good thing for me. On Sunday, I'm going to talk a little bit more about what I did to correct everything and get my life back in order. It's really important that you understand this took me days to process all the bits. And I'm not even sure if I've got all the bits out yet. I know I've got a lot of them. And the reason I know it is because I came out of survival. So the question is, for any of you that have been through trauma in your life, you will know what I'm talking about when I say that I came out of survival. All right. Kimmy's saying, I had a granddaughter for a few years ago. I grounded her because she wasn't coming home when she was supposed to. And she was hanging with 17 and 18-year-olds. And the mother, I gather that's the mother, sided with her. Yes, hey, her child. But you were right. In your house, these are the rules. All right? And what she does at home is not your business, right? What she does in your house is your business. Oh, thank you. All right. So apparently Kimmy was saying that the Department of Family Services agreed with her. Right. Well, I want to tell you that that doesn't make them right. That doesn't make them right. And the reason I say that, the reason I'm saying that is I remember watching a child be abused, and I actually, when the father was going to our equivalent of Department of Family Services, I actually went with him to give some input what I had seen happen firsthand. I didn't want it to be hearsay. I wanted them to know. And I had the same thing happen. Boundaries. You can still be a good person with a kind heart and still say no to people. Right? Really important that you get that. And as long as you understand you don't need them to agree to it. All right? You don't need them. You see, Kimmy, I think you had every right to put down your rules. And you gave consequences. If you don't obey them, this will happen, or whatever. As long as they understand the rules and the consequences and they choose to continue to do it, that is on them, not on you. But could the Department of Family Services say you're being over strict? They can. But hello, you're responsible for that human life. You are, while she's with you, you have responsibility for her well-being. So I would fight that. But I know you did. But the truth is, you know that that young lady was disrespectful to you and disrespectful to anybody she lived with. So you know you did the right thing. I allow myself to set healthy boundaries, to say no to what does not align with my values, and to say yes to what does. Boundaries assist me to remain healthy, honest, and living a life that is true to me. How many of you, in reality, while I'm telling this story, are thinking about somebody you need to lay down a boundary with? If you're honest with yourself, there is probably at least one person that you can think of that you're going, you know something, I need to set a boundary. It doesn't have to be as dramatic as mine was. It doesn't need to be as heart-wrenching as mine was. But, you know, we need to do that. If you know, it can be over quite small things, but it is important. How about this quote? And don't forget this, because it's also part of the teaching. Forgiving someone doesn't mean that their behavior was okay. What it means is that we're ready to move on, to release the heavy weight, to shape our own life on our terms without any necessary burdens. Forgiveness is pure freedom, and forgiveness is a choice. All right? So I can forgive my brother for what he did now that I've told him why it pissed me off. But did I have to tell him? No. But I don't know about you. Even if it hurts, I would want to know why I upset somebody. Because if I don't know how I upset them, how will I know if I want to correct what I did? I know that's my choice, not theirs. Kimmy, I'm not going to repeat that for your sake, all right? Breathe. Breathe. You know you made the right decision, honey. Ugh, heartbreaking. All right? Heartbreaking. I'm sending you a big hug. But, you know, it is really important that, you know, hopefully she will learn her lesson eventually. Life will have a way of teaching her. Life has that way. Daring to set boundaries and having the courage to love ourselves, even when we risk disappointing others. All right? This is the whole thing. So I made sure that before I even had the first conversation with my brother, that I knew what the consequences could be. All right? Not only from him, but also from my other sibling. All right? I was very clear with myself that because I was doing what I was about to do, I could end up burning at one bridge too many, and that that bridge would never be rebuilt. And I had to be pretty clear with myself that that was, if that was the price I had to pay, so be it. I like this. It said boundaries. I have to set limits for my own wellness. And even though I may say no to you, it doesn't mean it's even about you. I'm just taking care of me. Um, One of the guilt trips I got, and not from my brother, one of the guilt trips I got was, oh, well, you know, you could drive your car to go and have dinner with Marnie, but you don't want to drive the car into the States. Slightly different. um, and, you know, it's just like, yeah, I knew it was all coming, and it did. Yeah. Kimmy, you're right. It was not your fault. All right. You just did the best you knew how to do with the situation you were given. Boundary setting helps you prioritize your needs over other people's wants. Isn't that what happened to me? I needed to let go of the stress that my brother was putting on me by the constant changes, by everything I knew from experience. I actually realized that it was about his wants, not mine. Never once did he ask, what do I need? So I want you all to understand that it was not easy. I know the price I pay will be high, but 99% of me knows I did the right thing. And it freed me up in a lot of ways. In a lot of ways. Talking about it is not easy. Admitting what happened isn't easy. Admitting that I didn't do it all perfectly isn't easy. But you know something? I really believed that the story might help somebody. And as usual, if it has, then please make sure that you understand that is the reason why I tell the story. This is not about feel sorry for me or take away my pain, or that's all my stuff. What I want you to know is it happens to everyone, not just you. So, Kimmy, I know that your heart is still broken at some level, but the truth is, Kimmy, it happens to us all. It's not just you. And I'm thinking that as we learn more and more about ourselves, all right, we get stronger in knowing I got the warning sign. My brain started to give me the red flags, and I ignored them. And so I look at it and go, this isn't even about my brother. And you think about it, it is about I had had enough of other people trying to tell me and control me. That whole process. And um, Jeannie, you will know this from the 2 years you spent with your fire in your house and trying to rebuild everything. How many contractors, were more interested in what they wanted than what you wanted? They spoke well about the fact they wanted to please you, but the truth was they didn't. And remember the number of times I said to my contractors, I waited 3 months for you even to start, and now you want a decision by tomorrow. Yeah, I'm sure you do, but you're not getting it. Well, we have to get on with the job. Then it would have been nice if you'd contacted me 2 weeks ago and you didn't. I need time to make that decision. Yeah, exactly. Kimmy's saying, I know I'm not the only one out there that get caught in that sort of situation. We all get caught, in our own situation. I was saying around Christmas time, Easter time, we all have our own crosses to bear. All right, they're different, but they're equally painful. Hey, Kimmy, doesn't matter whether yours is bigger or smaller than somebody else's. Mine is pretty trivial on the scale of things, but I did realize if I didn't do something, then I was actually causing self-harm. And that was the difference. When I got really clear, I went, why am I even doing this? Am I looking forward to this? And the answer was no. That's what shocked me. I'm not. Well, then why are you doing it? Well, because he's your brother. Yeah, but that's not a good enough reason. And why is the answer no? And that is the thing that I process to the nth degree with my friends. Because I wanted to make sure that I was very solid on the why. Not just that it wasn't that it was just a split second decision, that this was push, 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 push. And then I just went, no, that's enough. Part of me goes, I could have put down a warning, but it was past there. All right. And so, Kimmy, remember, it's not about their behavior, it's about ours. All right. So the thing is this, that I wasn't totally proud of what I did. I'm still working on it as well, Kimmy. Don't think you're the only one that is working on a better way to do it. Oh, Jeannie's saying that she fell about 10 days ago. Didn't break anything, but was all purple, blue, and achy. Yow. I'm thanking God that it was all okay. I am healing slowly. Well, we're delighted to hear that. Well done. And did you trip over something? Yeah, you're working on the positives. I want to tell you that um, I really, once I finished processing, Jeannie, I started to, really make a plan on what I was going to do to work on the positives. What was I going to do with the extra time I suddenly got? Yeah, what was I going to do to make me happy? And I'll talk more about that on Sunday. So remember to be prepared for what is happening and not happening in the Ukraine and Russia. Both those countries are major food growers. But it is not just for you and your pantry. This could bring world hunger to a level it's never seen before. How many of you are getting that message? Right? Think about it. In poor countries, what do they live off? Some rice, all right? Some cultures live off rice as their staple, but so many of them live off flour and oil, right? They cook with oil. They do so much with flour and oil. So think about that. And again, remember that being able to cook bread from grain that you ground yourself kept a family alive for weeks. I thought that was incredible. Wow. Jeannie's saying that apparently, as a side note, that her husband thought it might have been her new glasses. Yes, they do warn you when you first get new glasses to be very careful because you are disoriented in terms of your depth of vision. But as Kimmy says, we're all glad you're okay. So there we go. Don't let anyone convince you that you owe them an explanation. Make a choice that works for you. I decided to give an explanation, and that was as much for me as it was to make sure that he knew why he'd upset me. I want to say that it was probably one of the most difficult things I've done in a long time. And yet I know I needed to do it. Because the arrogance of it, the disrespect of it, the lack of concern for anybody other than himself. I'm not saying that it wasn't there. I just didn't see any of it. Do you understand the difference? I'm not saying that he didn't care. All I am saying is he never did anything that made me think he did. All right? And so that is what I call the dilemma. And I still want to see both sides of the story. But it was also important, in my view, that he saw both sides of the story, that what he was doing did have consequences. And if it had consequences for me, I hope that he also saw it is probably having consequences with everybody else that he's screwing up with these changes going on all the time, for whatever reason. And that isn't my job, but part of me hopes that that gets through as well. All right. So there we go. Anger, if you bother to process it, has some really interesting answers for you. And mine were all about respect and the fact I did not want to get abused anymore, and that I didn't want any more stress. And just because he can change the itinerary. By the way, just reading his itinerary for that trip made me stressed. I don't mind telling you. But he's happy, and I wish him well. And I did say that to him from the bottom of my heart. I hope you have a truly wonderful trip. That was my wish for him. So there we go. This is DearMamaSal saying, don't think you're alone in this, because you're not. We all deal with these things. We all deal with these things. We all have good days and bad days. And that is life. And coping with it requires constant honesty and realization. And if being manipulated or abused in some way is part of it, it is okay for you to put down a boundary and go, hey, stop, not in my house. Not in my house. So there we go. This is DearMamaSal. Thanking you for being here. I really do appreciate it. I hope it has helped somebody. And if it has, please make sure you leave a comment below. We will see you this evening. And thanks to Jody and Jeannie and everybody else for the help. And having the group in here to discuss things with always makes it so much easier. This is DearMamaSal saying bye-bye for now.